They can't be put back in a normal group of chimpanzees in a zoo because they haven't had the opportunity of learning how to be a chimpanzee. And young chimpanzees, like young human children, have to learn proper adult behavior. So these chimpanzees, ex-pets, ex-circus, they have usually a very, very grim future. In the old days, they were killed. Nowadays, they're often sent to a very bad zoo in the developing world. They used to go to medical research laboratories. Gradually, those are getting less and less. So, over these 50 years, it's been learning more and more about the chimpanzees in the wild, which helps us to care for them better when they've been taken out of the wild and put in some kind of captive situation. But I want to share something that isn't even touched on in the film, because a film can only tell so much. I want to tell a story. And stories can sometimes give us a really good idea of what the animal is really like. So this is a story about a young male chimpanzee. His name is Satan. He's 23 years old, in his prime. And let's imagine now we're following him. We're following him along a trail in the forest. And he's magnificent. And suddenly he hears the sounds of chimpanzees excitedly feeding on something delicious up the valley. So his hair bristles with excitement. He hurries along the trail. He comes to this big tree filled with feeding chimpanzees and ripe fruit. He climbs up and he sees a beautiful bunch of ripe red fruit. He goes straight there. Well, there's a younger male feeding there, about 3 years younger than Satan. But that's all right, because Satan is dominant to him. He threatens, the young male screams and backs away. And Satan begins to feed. What Satan didn't know is that young male's older brother is feeding higher up in the tree. And hearing his young brother in trouble, he comes swinging down, and now the two brothers attack Satan together. Now Satan screams. Well, to my amazement, a very old female, her teeth are worn to the gums, she doesn't have much hair, it's thin, it's no longer glossy black but brown. She's been feeding peacefully up high in the tree, and now she comes swinging down. She drops herself onto these 3 battling males. Each one weighs about twice what she does. And with her little hands, she starts hitting at the brothers. And I think they're so surprised that they threaten her mildly. And Satan gets away. That was Satan's ancient mother, Sprout. And those are the kind of supportive, affectionate bonds that last between mothers and between brothers and sisters throughout life. And I love that story because it illustrates so well how amazingly strong these bonds are. Just one other story. If a mother dies and she leaves behind a dependent infant, that's an infant under 3, that infant will be adopted by an older brother or sister. But in this particular case, a mother died, leaving a little 3-year-old orphan, Mel. He didn't have an older brother or sister. He was just beginning to eat solid foods because the infant spends a lot of time suckling up until the age of 3. And we thought he would die. To our amazement, a 12-year-old, unrelated adolescent male adopted little Mel, carried him from place to place, waited for him if Mel got left behind. When Spindle made his nest for the night, bending branches over, little Mel would come and sit nearby, and Spindle would reach out and draw the infant close, and they slept curled up together. If Mel begged, hoping for some of Spindle's food, Spindle would share. And most important of all, if Mel got too close to the big males when they were competing for dominance and all excited, The mother's job is to keep her infant away, because in that situation, a male may actually grab an infant and drag him like a branch or throw him like a rock. So the mother's job is to make sure the infant keeps away until the child is old enough to learn for itself. Spindle even took on that role, even though it meant he was often attacked by the big males for getting in the way, even though most 12-year-olds are very, very cautious to keep out of the way when the big males are socially excited. There is no question but that Spindle saved Mel's life. So these are the kind of things we've been learning over 50 years. These are the kind of stories and life histories that really help us to understand better these closest living relatives of ours. As you will see in the film, the reason I left Gombe National Park, the reason I stopped myself studying the chimps, although there is a research team out there as we speak, and the research itself has never stopped. But I left because I realized that chimpanzee numbers in the wild are decreasing all the time, that chimpanzee habitats are being destroyed, that chimpanzees are being hunted for food. And I realized that I needed to leave my beautiful life out in the forest and do what I could to help to save them, to save their forests. And realizing as I traveled around Africa the tremendous crippling poverty of so many of the people, the hunger, the disease, looking down from an aeroplane and seeing that all around the tiny Gombe National Park, the trees had gone as more and more people were trying to get a livelihood out of the land, far more people than the land could support. And looking down, realizing how suffering the people were, how could we even try to save the chimps in that situation? And that led to our working with the people living around Gombe to improve their lives in a very holistic way. It's there, it's in the film. And we have gone on developing this Take Care program, which is now being utilized in other African countries to save other areas of forest where chimpanzees are still living. So the next phase in my evolution, so to speak, was realizing that I could kill myself trying to save chimps and forests and improve the lives of people. But it would be no use if we weren't raising new generations of young people to be better stewards than we've been, to care for the planet in a better way. And that led to our Roots and Shoots program. This is explained in the film. But since that film was made, Roots and Shoots has grown. It's now in 127 countries. There's about 16 or 17,000 active groups. And it's growing all the time. And it's about growing a critical mass of young people who share a philosophy of respect for other living things, a philosophy of respect for each other, and a philosophy of understanding that while we need money to live, we should never live for money. These young people in all these different countries, 127 countries, they are actually feeling so related to each other that one young man said to me, "What I love about Roots and Shoots is I know anywhere I go in the world, even if I know nobody, if there's a group of Roots and Shoots, I shall have found my family." So we're growing the family of man. It's linking young people around the world. It's teaching them to respect each other, to respect animals, and to respect Mother Nature. And it's increasing the number of young people going out into the adult world, sharing this philosophy. It's only if this happens that we can expect a beautiful world to still be here when our great-great-grandchildren grow up. I think Poland is isolated from some of the problems in the world. not only in the developing world, even in the wealthiest country in the world, which still is the US, as is shown in the film, you have populations of people living in absolute poverty. This is illustrated with the Native Americans. There are refugees around the world. There is so much suffering. And what I've learned in my years of traveling around the world is that all these problems are interrelated. And you may think that it's nothing to do with you, whether the forests in the Congo or the Amazon are cut down, sometimes to make grazing, to be able to feed cattle, or to grow grain for cattle. And you may think this is not important for you, but we know now very clearly that the most efficient and the cheapest way to slow down global warming is to save and restore forests, particularly tropical forests. And if you think about all the problems afflicting the planet, even if it's not right on your doorstep, it's going to affect people here. And that's why I'm hoping, as a result of this visit, that we can grow the Roots and Shoots program here in Poland. And talking today with people from the Science Center here, thinking of starting a partnership. And I asked, looking for it here, if anybody's interested. We have an international website for Roots and Shoots. That's in English, but it's very easy. It's www.rootsandshoots.org. But then the Science Center has offered to put the information on its website, and that is planetedocff, PLANETEDOCFF for Film Festival. It's the Film Festival's website, sorry. PL for Poland. So you can come here, you can look it up on the website. It's very easy these days. And I think it's important that we start Roots and Shoots. There's one group so far in the international school where I'm going. Oh, there they are. Oh, good. Hey, stand up, wave yourselves around. Well, here's the answer. If you want to find out about Roots and Shoots, there they are. Talk to them in their nice green Roots and Shoots t-shirts. And you can all get hold of the international school for sure. So, anyway, you know, Roots and Shoots is throughout Western Europe. It's beginning in the old Eastern Europe. It's right across the United States. It's everywhere in China. It's all throughout Tanzania. And it's my hope for the future. So I don't want to say too much more because I want you to ask your questions. But I will